Good morning. Today's Monday, July something. I'm not really sure the date anymore. It's kind of blending all together. Today I got some chest and shoulders. So I'm starting off with some dips. I think it's probably one of the best ways to help open up your shoulder complex, because when people slouch, you hit this depression that happens to your shoulders where it locks down and forward. And that pec minor, there's a little muscle in your chest called your pec minor that ends up actually locking the shoulders to the ribs, and it prevents you from actually getting a full stretch inside of your chest. And when you do that, you have to compensate somewhere else, usually your bicep or your shoulder, and you're feeling too much tension maybe right in the front of the shoulder here instead of in the chest. So one way I like to actually avoid that is to loosen up the variables that make that tight. So I'm going to start with doing some dips here, coming up with the shoulders and then driving and pushing all the way through to help loosen up that chest. So I do a couple sets real quick, just some body weight, start activating that muscle, not too much, about 10 reps there. And then I'll start going up in weight. I'm not going too heavy with this today because I am going to do a shoulder bias chest and shoulder day, which means most of my work is going to be strictly on the shoulders. But we'll do a couple things for the chest. I'll probably hit this, some sort of incline movement, a fly. And then from there, I'll see how I feel. If I got more in the tank from all the carbs I had these past couple of days, then maybe I'll do some more chest work. But if I'm not, I'm good to go. If I feel like that was enough, then I'll move on to the shoulders, and then that's when we'll make sure that we destroy those. So, all right, let's get back to this. All right, huge mistake with incline pressing. People go way too wide. And when you're going wide, you have the propensity to internally rotate your shoulders. So when you're picking up that dumbbell, that's how you get injured. What you want to do is tuck the elbows so you're pushing underneath on an incline. You don't want to be pushing straight away. That's going to limit your chest involvement, because what you want to do is you're trying to get this scooping motion coming through the chest. And a lot of people lack that, like upper development, because they're not getting that swoop into that pinch. They're just kind of going back and forth, and that limits their ability to pinch, and they're going to get a lot of stress in their bicep tendon and then also in the front of their shoulders. So a little bit more narrow. You're thinking more of like a swoop into a squeeze. You're not thinking about a linear press. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Not wide, slightly in. Stay also underneath it. You want to line your wrists with your elbows. And then I'm moving from my elbows, I'm not moving from my hands. And there is a significant difference in terms of just pushing the weight and actually trying to squeeze your chest. So you'll see guys grab the 100 pounds plus and they're just pumping the weight up and down, and then they got a flat chest. It's because you're not squeezing. You got to realize the main function to grow a muscle is to squeeze it. It's not to just move weights. And if you can't squeeze it, you're probably not using it all the way. And if you don't use it all the way, it's not going to grow. So you want to make sure that you're prioritizing that squeeze, even if you got to go lighter. I'm only doing 85s right now, mainly because I'm in prep and I'm fatigued. But also, it's like I get to toss up the 120s, no problem. My form is going to look like shit because I'm just focusing on squeezing. Or I'm not focusing on squeezing, I'm focusing on moving a weight. So you have to prioritize that. Make sure you're squeezing it. Don't just throw it around. All right, up next, I'm going to do some dumbbell flies, which I'm not a huge advocate for most people, mainly because they don't have the right mechanics in their shoulders to actually be able to load their chest. Instead, what they end up doing is they load their bicep tendon, and they get a lot of stress right here in the front of their shoulder. So what I like to do is my bench is slightly angled. It's somewhere around like 15 degrees to help elevate me up just slightly, to help compensate for that awkward posture. So putting a little bit of more depth and range on it. I personally don't like the declines. I think it puts way too much stress in your biceps. So I do a very mild incline, about 15 degrees. And I make sure that my dumbbells are light. I'm not going super heavy. You know, people will grab the fucking 60s and try to do flies with it, but they can't even focus on a squeeze or a pause at the bottom, which is most important. You gotta remember with a fly, it's less about you squeezing and more about you getting a controlled stretch in the chest. That's the whole point. You're trying to get a really deep stretch in that chest. So again, you gotta keep the wrist aligned with the elbow because that's where you're moving from. You know, you're not moving from your hands. You move from your hands, you're opening like this and you're getting to get a lot of bicep stress. So we have to open from the elbows and you have to think about your hands being almost glued to the dumbbell so they don't move. You don't want any type of wrist deviation. That'll stretch your forearms. You feel it in you start feeling your elbows and it'll translate to your biceps and then your shoulders. You want to try to keep it like rigid. So when I come back, my elbows are driving backwards and I'm pinching my shoulder blades. And that way, when I move from my arm, my upper arm, my chest stretches. But if I just move from my hand, you see how it internally and externally rotates my shoulder? That's what a lot of people get. They get a lot of stress in there and they're wondering why their shoulders hurt because they're getting nothing in their chest anymore. So you need to make sure that you move from the elbows so you can stretch the chest and then keep a pause at the bottom for about 1 second there. Make sure that you can feel the entire stretch in the chest. If you're going down too far, you're gonna start to feel it in your shoulder, your bicep. It needs to stay on the chest. And once that stretch is there and you hold it for a second, you'll start to feel it tearing and opening up. That's when you try to re-engage and squeeze it through. And then when you get to the top of the movement, it's not about how much you can squeeze because gravity's pulling the weight downwards into your chest now. So you're not gonna get that big of a squeeze anymore like you would with a cable where it's pulling you open. So try that out. All right, so I'm gonna do some lateral raises. Now, I've been doing them recently on cables and coming from behind my back because in order to get a full stretch in the front of your, in the side of your shoulder, you're gonna actually have to come behind the back to stretch it all the way. As you can see, when I put my shoulder all the way backwards, you'll get a full stretch. So this wouldn't be a full stretch right here at my sides. This would be. So obviously I can't do that with a dumbbell because it doesn't create any advantage for me to come behind my back with a dumbbell. Some people like to lean on the side with the cable, but I like to try to stay in more of an upright position because I feel like the more of an angle you put on it, the more suspension you get from the bicep and then also the trap. So you're getting a lot of extra tension in areas you don't need it. So what I like to do is actually have the cables coming from behind me. It's kind of a pain in the ass when you got to squat down and grab them, but it provides way better stress and part of the muscle that you're actually trying to target in the side of the shoulder. So start off with a few sets of these. See what I'm saying? You gotta do some like weird movement and then straight to the outside. So you don't wanna let them cross because you want the carabiners clipping together. Son of a bitch. Okay. All right. So you don't want them to cross back over because then the carabiners will clip together. So you wanna keep your chest up high. And I'm moving from my elbow, same concept, because the side of my shoulder connects to the top of my arm, right? So the lever is gonna be my elbow here, not my hands. So I'm trying to drive through, keep the tension focused on the sides of my shoulders. Chest up high, slow movement. Whew. Perfect. And again, it's not that I don't use dumbbells. I'm just trying to prioritize isolation, which means I'm trying to get as much stress on my shoulders as possible to create that growth response that you're looking for. So I try to find different ways to target it. It could be, laying backwards on a bench on a slight angle and doing it. It could be coming from behind the back, be doing single arms, dumbbells, kettlebells. Any variation where you're going lateral to the body is going to help you target the side, the shoulders, and really cap them off. However, you don't want to go fully to the side. What I mean is not 90 degrees, more of like a 45, because look where my shoulder sits. It's angled slightly forward, right? It's not angled straight to the side like this. So when I come up, I want to be on a slight angle. I don't want to be way back here where I'm getting stretch in my chest and my bicep. Something to keep in mind with that. Now, I am going to be doing some shoulder presses. I'm doing them on a Smith machine today. Usually I change it up. Sometimes I'll do dumbbells. Sometimes I'll do a machine, almost like a pin-loaded machine. Sometimes I'll do a plate-loaded machine where I can get like individuals, like single arms. And then sometimes I'll just do a Smith machine. And the idea when you're doing any type of shoulder pressing movement is same idea with the chest. You don't want to go too wide out here, okay? That will compromise the shoulder joint. You want to keep it more narrow because what I'm trying to do is stretch the front of my shoulder. So I think the front of my shoulder connects here and then up top, right? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stretch it across this line. So I'm trying to bring it all the way through right where it stretches, and then I'm driving with my elbow all the way through, okay? So whenever you're trying to train a muscle, I always say feeling out finish, okay? Don't focus on what you think it should look like, focus on how it feels. And if you can't feel a good stretch in the front of that shoulder, within reason, you go too far down like this, you're gonna get into the bicep. But ideally, you wanna keep the wrist in line with the elbow. That way it creates this lever and it yanks and it pulls down from the shoulder, and then you drive and you push through. So I'm actually gonna be pushing into the machine and up underneath it simultaneously. So it's kind of like this, coming down underneath and then pressing up. So just nice and slow. This is very light to start us off here because I'm just trying to feel this range out. Again, whenever you're doing a shoulder press movement on a bar, you have to think about the asymmetry in your shoulders, which means if one of your arms are higher than the other, shoulders sit higher than the other, you're gonna have to factor that in when you're doing any type of movements with the upper body. So you wanna make sure that you're symmetrical as possible, and when you do that is by looking at your shoulder lining in the mirror, making adjustments, move around a little bit, make sure the spine's nice and even, make sure both of your butt cheeks are touching the seat evenly. Make sure when you look at yourself in the mirror, look at your trap levels. Is one of them sitting higher than the other? And ideally, you want to position yourself so you actually get symmetrical tension on each side. And if you feel more on one side, then focus on the other. And if you still are persistently feeling too much on one side, like you're in irritation, inflammation, you feel like there's more stress in the joint than there is in the shoulder muscle, then go and do a machine that allows you to individually load your arms, which means you can push one arm at a time, because that's going to allow you to have more versatility in terms of your range and actually reposition so you can actually focus on that shoulder individually instead of being on a fixed grip. So I'm going to load some more weight on this, do a few sets of this, and then we'll see where we're at from there. But man, those shoulders coming in, boy. All right, so the very last thing I'm gonna be doing for shoulders is some front raising. So I did some lateral raises and I did some front pressing movements. Now what I wanna do is a front raise motion to tie in the front of that shoulder. And the more you get definition in the front of the shoulder, the more it will actually like peak the bicep because it creates that indentation. So the more I profile this out, the bigger your arm actually looks. So when you spend a lot of time focusing on your biceps and your triceps because you want to have big arms, it's actually redundant, because what you really need is a shoulder cap that'll actually make those arms pop, right? It adds that third party definition because it creates, see, if I were to like block out just my shoulder definition, my arm just looks kind of like thick. But when you add the shoulder in, it makes it really pop. So you want to do a variation of exercises. Pressing movements, obviously very dominant, lateral raises and front raises. So let me go ahead and hit this set real quick. All right, I had to stop and get gas this morning, and this fucking pump, whenever I go to it, it puts like $100 charge on your card immediately, and then it tries to charge it again for the gas. And every time it does that, it trips up, it'll trip up my fucking bank account, and it'll also trip up our Amex. Like, it's like this fucking gas station, man. All right, so it's Wednesday. Today, I have a few things that I want to cover with you. And I'll do it when I get to the gym because it gets pretty loud when I'm in the Jeep. It's like a fucking wind sail. And it just, because the windshield's pretty much flat. So you just hear all the wind hitting it and the tires on the ground. So I'll touch base with you when I get back to the gym. I love Wednesdays. I love getting off early and having the rest of my day. And I'm gonna go home to my peaceful time and just edit videos in silence, you know, with no artificial light, just some sunlight hitting my face. I just cannot wait to get home and relax. I get to see my dogs. I get to, you know, go into normal people clothes and just fucking relax. I love my little peaceful moments, just being on my laptop, you know, in my little world of editing. So yeah, I'm done for my day. So I am going to go home now, and I'm going to post one of the... This video is going to be a different one, but I already have one that's already made that I have to post today. It's basically my entire supplement protocol. You know, all the things that I order in a month in terms of my supplements, everything I've taken this prep, how much I take, why I take it, just kind of giving you some insight as to what a bodybuilding preparation can look like in terms of supplementation. So, yeah, my Wednesday's coming to an end, friends. So, that's that. Time to go home.
A bodybuilding show. پرسونال ترینراشون خب این کلاس‌ها رو میذارن که ترایال، یعنی تو امتحان میکنی، خب مجانی.
All right, so she is on the phone with her mom, and I'm driving us right now to a bodybuilding show.
Oh.
So it's all the way in Mesa.
What?
So it's like a 40-minute drive. And I really only care. We're just going to the pre-judging right now. So the pre-judging is essentially just like them doing their mandatory poses. And they pretty much pick the winner from the start.
Is your favorite one.
So like they already know pretty much who the winner is going into the evening show. And that's where they do all their posing routines and everything like that. But this is mainly just... Sorry, I'm just trying to fucking straighten this out. These are mainly just like comparison rounds. They do their mandatories. And they just kind of see how all the competitors look. Compared to one another without like all the audience there and all the theatrics and all the distractions. So it's really the only round I care to go see. I don't really want to go back in the evening. So we're just going to go and see the pre-judging, and then we'll pretty much figure out who the winner is, scope out the local competition, and yeah, go from there. All right, so we just finished the show. Apparently you can't bring any film equipment in there because I think they use production companies to film stuff, and I don't know if it's solicitation with photography or if they have a license to like film there, but whatever the case may be, I know that we couldn't film. So we only stayed for probably about an hour and 15 minutes. We just got through all of the pre-judging for the classic physique competitors, and they did the men's bodybuilding too, so we got to see both. And then every other division is just kind of bullshit, so I don't want to stay and watch any of that stuff. Don't want to watch the men's bikini, the women's bikini, none of that shit. So, what did you think of the class? What did you think of the competitors? Come on, just tell me real quick. She can wait. What do you think of the competition?
What do you want me to say?
I don't know anything.
Fine.
Give your honest opinion.
I don't know. There were some people that looked okay, and nobody looked crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like, it was just whatever. I feel like the classic guys looked a lot smaller. I mean, I feel like the bodybuilding division looked like the people that how people should look in classic.
Yeah, well, that's because it's an amateur division. Yeah. So amateur bodybuilders look like pro physique guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Or classic physique.
That's what it felt like.
That's fucking hilarious. All right, so now we're going to be done. I think I'm going to get some gelato today. And then we're lowering carbs next week. So we are officially 3 weeks out. And I'm about to go get some fucking gelato a little bit here. But we're going home first because we have to.
Unfortunate.
So, yeah. It doesn't open for another 2 hours.
What if we go get coffee?
Oh shit, that's a good idea. You want to go to Press?
Is there any near us? I don't think there's any in this area. Let's look it up.
No, well the Press is right next to the fucking... It's not that far, right?
You want to go for 2 hours?
Yeah, why not? I already had a shake.
I don't care. I'm just gonna read my book.
That's fine. I'll just sit on my phone. All right, let's go to Press.
Wait.
All right, so we are at our gelato place, and
our gelato place.
Yes,
it's ours.
These are one of those places that like they focus so heavily on quality that they probably won't scale it. Like it's just the delicate artistry. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. We're gonna go in there, get some gelato, eat it in the car because it's 109 degrees outside right now, and that shit'll melt instantly. So we're gonna come back in here, And that's going to be the end of our day. Just sucking down some fucking gelato. So we did the bodybuilding show this morning. You know, got that taken care of. There wasn't anybody incredibly impressive at that show, but it was a smaller venue, so I really wasn't anticipating too much of that. However, it did mentally prepare me even further, and I feel like I'm ready. So let's go get some gelato. What do you say?
Yes.
I am never outside. And I feel like when I come outside, my body morphs and changes
I am never outside.
right before my eyes. All right, you ready? Did you get 2 each?
Yeah. You're good. Okay, that's good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So my ice cream is like already halfway gone. It's been a short little walk to the car from back over there. But they have this cool little wafer cookie that they have that's like branded that you use to like scoop the ice cream with. So when it starts to fall, as you can see the little lines around it, you just like scoop it off. I'm just gonna end this entire...
Spilling?
No, it's just a piece of my cone. I think I'm gonna end this one here. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna finish up this gelato here 3 weeks out from my competition.
Thank you.
And,
Come again.
So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.